everyone. Hope you all are staying safe at your respective homes. Today's topic of discussion is oropharynx and tongue. I am Dr. Farah Was, Associate Professor in Anatomy at Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. Learning objectives. By the end of the class, learners should be able to tell subdivisions of pharynx, definition of oropharynx, Walde's ring, definition and development of tongue, parts, surfaces and shape of tongue, intrinsic and extrinsic muscles of tongue, vasculature, innervation and lymphatic drainage of tongue along with the applied aspect of the development. Now before moving on to the oropharynx, one should know what is pharynx. Pharynx is basically a muscular tube that connects the oral and the nasal cavity to the larynx and esophagus. It begins at the base of the skull and ends at the inferior border of the cricoid cartilage, that is at the level of C6. This pharynx is comprised of three parts starting from above downwards, and these are nasopharynx, oropharynx and laryngopharynx. Now, our topic is oropharynx. So, oropharynx is the middle part of pharynx located between the soft palate and the superior border of epiglottis. It has got the following structures: posterior one-third of the tongue, lingual and the palatine tonsils. The palatine tonsil is lying between the palatoglossal and the palatopharyngeal arch, and there is one constrictor muscle along with it, that is the superior constrictor muscle. Now we can see here in the diagram that oropharynx is the part marked in green. Again here, this is a line diagram to make you all easy to understand how to draw that particular diagram. So oropharynx is involved in the voluntary and involuntary phases of swallowing, and the part marked in yellow is the oropharynx. Here there is palatoglossal and the palatopharyngeal arch along with the tonsil. There is one more important thing in the oropharynx, and that is the Walde's ring. It is an interrupted circle of protective lymphoid tissue at the upper ends of respiratory and alimentary tracts, and is comprised of pharyngeal tonsil, tubal tonsil, palatine tonsil and the lingual tonsils, which gives it a ring-shaped appearance. That is why it is known as Walde's ring. Now when we start with tongue, before moving on, one should know the introduction about the tongue. The word is riddled with numerous stimuli that living organisms interact with every day. Each individual is able to perceive, process and integrate these stimuli with the aid of general and specialized sensory receptors throughout the body. Now, the tongue is a unique organ located in the oral cavity that not only facilitates perception of gustatory stimuli, gustation is taste, but also plays an important role in mastication and deglutition. Additionally, the tongue is an integral part of the speech pathway as it helps with articulation. Now, when we talk about the tongue, somewhere you will find gloss and somewhere you will find glosses. So the prefix is gloss and the suffix is glossus, and we can understand it better with an example. For example, glossopharyngeus refers to the muscle arising from the tongue and inserting in the pharynx. Glosso is prefix here. Whereas in the hyoglossus, this is the muscle originating from the hyoid bone and getting inserted in the tongue. So glossus is the suffix over here. But before moving to the gross anatomy of tongue, one should know about the development of tongue, how the tongue develops. Now the tongue is made up of two parts: anterior 2/3 of the tongue and posterior 1/3 of the tongue. Although there is a minor contribution also from the posterior most part of the tongue. So this anterior 2/3 of the tongue, posterior 1/3 of the tongue, along with the posterior most part of the tongue, they are derived from the pharyngeal arches. Here in the diagram, you can see two lingual swellings on either side of the tuberculum impar. These three structures, that is the two lingual swellings along with the tuberculum impar, they are derived from the first pharyngeal arch, and they lie just in front of the foramen cecum over here. Whereas the posterior 1/3 of the tongue is derived from the hypobranchial eminence, that is formed by the third and fourth pharyngeal arches. This hypobranchial eminence is divided into cranial part shown in blue and the caudal part shown in beige color. Now, when the fusion takes place, these two lingual swellings, they grow and fuse with the tuberculum impar to form the anterior 2/3 of the tongue. As you can see here in the diagram, this is the anterior 2/3 of the tongue derived from the lingual swellings. Tuberculum impar is present as such, but it is not contributing to the formation of tongue. Then there is foramen cecum that forms a demarcating line between the anterior 2/3 and posterior 1/3. And the hypobranchial eminence cranial part is formed by the third arch and the caudal part is formed by the fourth arch. So the cranial part forms the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, whereas the caudal-most part is formed by, the posterior-most part of the tongue is formed by the caudal part of hypobranchial eminence. Now this is the reason for the variation in nerve supply of the tongue. As you can see here, there is a side view where you can see the anterior 2/3 of the tongue, posterior 1/3 and the posterior most part of the tongue. Here there is a diagram showing you the second arch which is buried down and the third arch overlaps it, thereby giving the posterior 1/3 of the tongue its nerve supply by the glossopharyngeal nerve. And the posterior most part of the tongue is by the superior laryngeal, that is a branch of vagus. Now muscles, they develop from the occipital myotomes, as you can see in the picture over here, and this is supplied by the hypoglossal nerve, that is the 12th cranial nerve, whereas the connective tissue is derived from the local mesenchyme. Now coming on to the gross anatomy of tongue. The tongue is a muscular organ lying in the oral cavity. It has got various parts and surfaces. The parts are root. As you can see here, the root of the tongue, it connects tongue to floor of mouth. Whereas the tip is the anterior end of the tongue, and the margins, these are the margins you can see, they connect the posterior superior surface, that is the dorsum of the tongue, with the inferior surface on both the sides, right and left. So there are right and left margins. Posterior superior surface is there, that is the dorsum of the tongue, and the inferior surface or the ventral surface is the part shown over here. Now again, this is the dorsum of the tongue showing various structures. This is the median glossoepiglottic fold, and the lateral and glossoepiglottic fold is there. There is palatopharyngeal arch, palatine tonsil over here. This is the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, and the sulcus terminalis. Anterior to the sulcus terminalis, there are valeate papillae. This one is the median sulcus of the tongue, that is the junction where the two lingual swellings fuse in the midline. This is the median sulcus of the tongue and the tip of the tongue along with the body of the tongue. The relation of the tongue, when we talk about the apex or the tip of the tongue, is related to lower incisors. This is the lower incisors and the tip of the tongue is related to it. Body is related to the floor of the oral cavity, and the root of the tongue is attached to the mandible and hyoid bone. whereas the lateral borders, or you can say the margins of the tongue, are related to gums and tooth of inferior alveolar process. Now dorsal surface I've already told you, but here again it has got two parts. Anterior two-third, that is the oral part. This is the anterior two-third, that is the oral part. It is limited posteriorly by the V-shaped sulcus terminalis, and the junction of the V is marked by a foramen, that is the foramen cecum, as we have already discussed in the development. Posterior one-third is the pharyngeal part, and it has got lingual tonsils. These are the aggregations of lymphoid follicles. Again, this is the diagrammatic representation so that you can reproduce what you have learned. On the ventral surface, or you can say on the inferior surface, if I'll show you a diagram that will make it more easier for you to understand it. Here in the midline there is a green colored structure, that is the frenulum linguae. It is a midline mucosal fold, and on either side there is a wavy bilateral mucosal fold called as plica fimbriata. This is plica fimbriata. Now in between the plica fimbriata and the frenulum linguae there is a bluish deep vein, that is the deep lingual vein, and that helps in the drainage of tongue. Now when we come to the musculature of the tongue plays a very important role in articulation as well as in swallowing. There are two types of muscles, extrinsic as well as intrinsic. Here there is a cross-sectional view of the musculature of the tongue, where on one half you can see all the extrinsic muscles, where on the other hand or the other half you can visualize all the intrinsic muscles of the tongue. See, the superior longitudinal vertical muscle, transverse muscle, then there is inferior longitudinal muscle. So coming to the extrinsic muscles of the tongue, while the shape is determined by the intrinsic muscles, movement of the organ, that is the movement of tongue within and out of the oral cavity, is dependent on the extrinsic tongue muscles. They are genioglossus, styloglossus, hyoglossus and palatoglossus. The extrinsic muscles play an important role in pressing and molding the food bolus in preparation for the initial phase of swallowing. They move the bolus posteriorly into the oropharyngeal inlet, and the action of palatoglossus is such that it closes off the oropharyngeal isthmus to prevent food from moving cranially or coming back while swallowing. Now here you can very well appreciate genioglossus is shown in blue color, hyoglossus is the one going above and is green, whereas the pink one is the styloglossus. Now genioglossus is also known as the safety muscle of the tongue. You can find it here as the green one, and it arises from the superior genial tubercle to the inserted into the tongue. It helps in the protrusion of the tongue and forms the majority of the body of tongue. Now hyoglossus is a thin and quadrilateral muscle. See, this is hyoglossus, this one. It arises from the hyoid bone and goes to the substance of the tongue. It helps in protrusion of the tongue. Next is styloglossus. It is the shortest and smallest of the three styloid muscles. It arises from the front of the styloid process and goes to the tip and sides of tongue. See over here, this is the styloglossus. It causes retraction of the tongue. Now there is a palatoglossus. It is a muscle exactly of the soft palate. It arises from the palatine epineurossus and goes to the tongue. Here you can see this is the palatoglossus muscle. It causes elevation of the tongue because it is coming from above and going downwards. So it causes elevation of the tongue. Now, extrinsic muscles we have covered. Coming to the intrinsic muscles of the tongue. These muscles are responsible for the shape and orientation of the tongue. They are four paired muscles and they can operate independently or they can operate in combination with each other so as to give rise to various shapes of the tongue. Now, the original insertion is within the substance of the tongue only. As we have already seen the cross-sectional view, these are of four types: superior longitudinal. This is superior longitudinal muscle arising from the submucosa of the posterior tongue and goes to the margins. This turns the apex and margins of the tongue upwards to make the dorsum concave. As you can see here in the rolling up movement in this picture, it makes the dorsum concave. Then there is another muscle. This is the inferior longitudinal muscle shown in green over here. This is the inferior longitudinal muscle, arises from the root of the tongue and goes to the apex of the tongue, or you can say the tip of the tongue. It shortens the tongue and turns it downward. Another pair is transverse muscle. Here you can see the transverse bands are there on either side of the median septum. It arises from the median septum and goes to the lateral margins of the tongue. So, what it causes? It causes narrowing and elongation of the tongue. Then there is another pair, that is the vertical muscle. It is found at the borders. See, the vertical bands are there. These are the found at the borders of the anterior part of the tongue. They make the tongue broad and flattened. So, when the tongue is broad and flattened, it is because of the vertical muscle. Now, when we are discussing tongue, the topic will remain incomplete if we do not talk about the papillae and the taste buds of the tongue. So, the tongue has got papillae on its dorsal surface. They are again four in number: circumvallate, foliate, fungiform and filiform. And you can see here the distribution of these papillae. Filiform is most numerous and is conical in shape, has no taste buds and arranged parallel to sulcus terminalis. See, this is the sulcus terminalis. Circumvallate is present anterior to it. They are 10 to 12 in number and have got taste buds. Whereas the foliate, folia is leaf-like. So, foliate papillae are present on the margins near the sulcus terminalis and they also have got taste buds. Now, fungiform papillae are on the margins and tip. They are mushroom shaped. Again, they have got taste buds. Now, taste buds, they carry four types of taste sensations. They are sweet, salt, sour and bitter. However, all areas are responsive to all taste stimuli, but this is the predominant region of every type of taste. Sweet is present at the tip, salty and sour on the sides, and bitter is at the posterior part of the tongue. Now, coming to the arterial supply of tongue. Lingual artery is the main artery which is supplying the tongue with its branches. Now, lingual artery is itself a branch of external carotid artery. And as you can see in this diagram, this is again a line diagram so that you can easily reproduce it while doing your exams. And it is easy to remember also. So, the lingual artery gives its branches in the form of dorsal lingual artery supplying the posterior part, and the deep lingual artery which is supplying the anterior part of the tongue. Then there is sublingual artery also which is supplying the submandibular gland and the floor of mouth. See here. Now, the venous drainage is basically again by the lingual veins. Dorsal lingual veins, they are at the dorsum and at the margins of the tongue. Whereas the deep lingual veins are again similar to the artery and they are draining the tip of the tongue. They both unite at the posterior border of hyoglossus muscle. Hyoglossus, as we have already talked about, forms lingual vein which ends either in facial or internal jugular. See, this is again a diagram you can easily reproduce. Here is the dorsal lingual vein, the veni comitans of the lingual artery. Then there is a sublingual and the deep lingual vein reaching up to the anterior end of the tongue. And they all drain into the lingual vein, finally ending up into the internal jugular vein. Now the lymphatic drainage, I'll show you here in the diagram. Anterior part of the tongue is draining into the submental lymph nodes, whereas the posterior part is into the submandibular lymph nodes. Posterior most part of the tongue is going into the jugulo-omohyoid lymph nodes. As you can see here in the jugulo-omohyoid, it is lying against the muscle omohyoid. Now the nerve supply, it is very important because of its dual origin from the first arch and the second, third and fourth arches. So the musculature which is derived from the occipital myotomes is supplied by hypoglossal nerve, except here, write it in bold, except palatoglossus, which is supplied by the cranial part of accessory nerve. Now when we talk about the mucosa has been divided into general sensations and taste, that is gustation. General sensation, when we talk about the area, it is presulcal area and the postsulcal area. Presulcal is excluding valiate papillae and is supplied by the lingual nerve, whereas the postsulcal area is including valiate papillae, that is the circumvallate papillae, and is supplied by the ninth cranial, that is the nerve of third arch. Whereas the root of the tongue in front of the epiglottis is supplied by the superior laryngeal, that is the posterior most part of the tongue supplied by the branch of vagus. Okay. Then we move on to the taste sensation. Again, taste sensation is divided into anterior 2/3 and posterior 1/3. Now, when we were discussing the pharyngeal arches, first arch has got dual nerve supply from the post-traumatic and the pre-traumatic. Pre-traumatic nerve is of the second arch, that is a branch of facial. So chorda tympani is the pre-traumatic nerve that is supplying the taste to the anterior 2/3 of tongue. Whereas the general sensations are by the lingual nerve. Again, the postsulcal area, that is posterior 1/3 of a tongue, is including valiate papillae and is supplied by the nerve of third arch, that is glossopharyngeal, because second arch is buried under the third arch, because third arch is overgrowing and covering the second arch. So the nerve supply of posterior 1/3 is because of that third arch only. So it is glossopharyngeal nerve. Now the secretomotor supply. Anterior 2/3 is again via the lingual nerve from the submandibular ganglion. These are the parasympathetic ganglia. Posterior 1/3 is by the glossopharyngeal via the lingual ganglia located in the substance of the tongue. See here, this is the glossopharyngeal nerve territory, lingual and chorda tympani for the anterior 2/3 of the tongue, and the posterior most part of the tongue is by the vagus via its branch, that is superior laryngeal. Now when we talk about the anomalies related to the development and gross anatomy, all these anomalies are basically because of the two lingual swellings, tuberculum impar and the hypobranchial eminence. If these two lingual swellings, they fail to fuse or fail to appear, or they become larger in size or remain smaller, they may lead to various anomalies related to them. If there is absence of lingual swellings, it causes aglossia, absence of tongue. See, this is the absence of tongue. It is aglossia. Then there could be bifid tongue, where the fusion has not taken place between the two lingual swellings. There could be persistence of red rhomboid shaped area, that is the tuberculum impar. See, here you can see. Then there could be ankyloglossia. Ankyloglossia is tongue tie. It is to the floor of the mouth. It could be ankyloglossia superior also, where it is attached to the roof. There could be thyroid tissue in the substance of the tongue. Here you can see this is the lingual thyroid present on the surface of the tongue. There could be leukoplakia, white patches on the tongue. Then it could be a fissured tongue, as you can see here in this picture. This is a fissured tongue. Now there is an anomaly or a syndrome known as Perry-Robin syndrome. In that case, there is micrognathia, a small jaw with a receding chin, but the tongue is large as compared to the jaw. This tongue, when falls back, leads to airway obstruction, causing sleep apnea. Also, there could be paralysis of tongue, and the paralyzed tongue deviates to the side of the lesion. See, this is the normal tongue, right genioglossus, left genioglossus, it is a normal tongue. But when the tongue is paralyzed because of the 12th cranial nerve paralysis, the tongue deviates to the side of lesion. Okay, here you can see this is the right genioglossus showing active, but the left genioglossus is paralyzed, so it is deviating to the site of lesion. Now, take home message in this particular topic is oropharynx is the middle part of pharynx and has got Walde's larynx. They are the lymphoid aggregations. Development of tongue begins towards the end of the 4th gestational week. The presulcal tongue is the first pharyngeal arch derivative, whereas the postsulcal is from the 3rd and 4th arches, and hence the nerve supply is according to the area derived from. Neither the tuberculum impar nor the copula contributes to structures of the adult tongue. Tongue has got extrinsic and extrinsic muscles responsible for shape, orientation and swallowing. It has got papillae and taste buds so that we can enjoy various foods, and many associated anomalies are related to the tongue only. Thank you for your patient listening, and if you like this video, please like, subscribe and share my channel.